Bitcoin is every macro trader's favorite asset because they can trade it 24/7, 365. They can trade it anywhere in the world. They can trade it with any amount of leverage, and they can cross-collateralize it with any other asset. And they can talk about it with legal impunity because it's a commodity. It's not a security. And so that makes it the most attractive of all assets to trade on a trend.
마이클 세일러는 최근 비트코인을 8천억 원 이상 높은 가격에 추가 매수했는데요. 그는 비트코인이 100만 달러, 1000만 달러에 도달해도 계속해서 가격과 상관없이 매수를 할 것이라는 발언을 해 주목을 받고 있습니다.
If you think there's a missile attack coming, you want to sell it. If you think the missile attack was overblown and there's not going to be a war, you want to buy it. I think when people are panicking, they tend to want to do a leverage short on Bitcoin. When interest rates and when the perception is we're going to a risk-on environment or a looser money environment, they'll turn the other way. So I do think that interest rates coming in or the expectation of interest rates coming in is very bullish for the asset. And there'll be certain points where you'll probably see it rip up because of that. I think that this is a pro-business, deregulation, low regulation, pro-business, low tax, pro-innovation administration, in general and everything they're doing. All of those things will be good for Bitcoin over time. I think deregulation is very good, and I think low interest rates are very good.
Just a quick follow-up to that. There was a counter-argument I've heard from other crypto investors that a pro-business administration is actually bearish for Bitcoin short-term because the central bank does not need to ease as much. Perhaps the recession could be stalled by pro-business policies, and liquidity flows would not have a positive impact on Bitcoin because of that. How do you respond to that?
I think there's a lot of double reverse logic that takes place in the macro trading environment.
Yeah.
Like, for example, if you knew there was lots of inflation over the long term, the number one thing to hold is Bitcoin. But when people print a big inflation number, Bitcoin will trade down in the short term. But the double reverse logic is inflation is high, therefore the interest rates are going up, therefore money is getting slurped out, therefore I should find something to sell, so I'll sell Bitcoin. And that's why I would say there are basically two ways to think about Bitcoin. Actually, there's three views. There's the trader, there's the investor, and there's the maximalist. Okay, the trader says it's an asset, I can get a handle on it, I can 50x lever it long and short. They're obsessing over whether or not good news is coming because good news is bad news and bad news is good news, right? And then they want to make sure they're the first one to get the bad news so they can treat it as good news. And if you're one of those traders, you know who you are and more power to you. I'm not that guy. Then the investor view is, this is the dominant digital monetary network in the world. It's going to go up by a factor of 10 to 100. And I'm just going to hold it like Apple, like Facebook, like Google, like Microsoft. I'm going to hold it like my big tech monopoly for the next decade. And it's going to jerk around a bit, and I'm going to buy it on dips. The maximalist view is, this is property rights for 8 billion people. This is the greatest opportunity of the 21st century. This is economic empowerment for every business, every country, every family, every individual, right? I'm going to support it at all times, every way I can, forever.
그는 비트코인 시장은 24시간 트레이더 투자자 맥시멀리스트에 의해 유동성이 공급되며 단기, 중기, 장기 관점에서 트레이딩하기에도 비트코인은 완벽하다라고 이야기하는데요. 하지만 제 채널에 등장하는 전문가들은 대부분 비트코인을 좋게 이야기해야 하는 위치에 있는 사람들입니다. 고객 자금을 굴리고 있거나 회사 자금으로 비트코인을 구매한 사람들이 많기 때문이죠. 시장에는 정답질은 없습니다. 그럼에도 많은 투자자들은 리스크를 감수하고 돈을 벌기 위해서 비트코인 시장에 뛰어드는 것이죠. 하지만 급등락하는 비트코인 시장에서 급등과 급락을 반복하는 차트를 보고도 개인 투자자들이 욕심과 공포를 떨쳐내는 떨쳐내고 평정심과 내 자산이 우상향을 하는 것은 말처럼 쉽지가 않으실 겁니다. 저 또한 전업투자자 생활을 오래 했지만 항상 좋은 자리를 기다리고 인내해야 수익을 조금씩 낼 수 있었습니다. 그래서 저희 앤드류 트레이딩 팀에서는 어떻게 하면 일반 개인 투자자들도 투자 시장에서 수익을 낼 수 있을까? 구독자분들께 어떻게 하면 조금이라도 도움을 좀 드릴 수 있을까? 고민을 하다가 구독자분들도 비트코인이 명확하게 상승 추세가 나왔을 때만 투자를 하실 수 있게 한다면 수익이 조금 나지 않을까? 라는 생각을 하게 되었는데요. 제가 전업 투자를 하면서도 개발자로 오래 일을 했기 때문에 저도 써볼 겸 유료 결제를 해서 결국 만들었습니다. 바로 비트코인이 정말 신뢰할 수 있는 상승 추세인 건지 횡보인지 하락인지 알 수 있게 도움을 주는데요. 지금 보고 계시는 건 비트코인 차트인데요. 제가 빨간색 네모 박스로 표시해둔 곳을 보시면 주황색 61선과 파란색 121선이 교차하는 구간에서 추세가 변동되는 걸 보실 수 있습니다. 실제로 지금 비트코인은 최근에 61선과 121선이 데드크로스 하방 교차하면서 조정이 나오고 있는데요. 제가 운영 중인 앤드류 관점 채널에서는 보시다시피 2월 25일부터 제가 줄 곧 비트코인 하락 관점을 제가 말씀드리고 리스크 관리에 대해서 말씀을 드렸고 많은 분들이 도움을 받으셨습니다. 물론 데드크로스가 난다고 해서 무조건 하락하지도 상승하지도 않습니다. 저희 앤드류 트레이딩 팀에서 개발한 알파빗 지표는 약 8개의 고급 추세 기준과 트레이더들의 노하우를 담아서 차트가 상승할 확률이 높을 때 신호가 나오도록 개발을 하였습니다. 그 결과 저희 전문 트레이딩 팀 또한 판단에 도움받을 정도로 만족할 만한 놀라운 성과를 보였습니다. 시중에 유료로 팔 수 있을 정도로 가치 있는 지표이지만 저희 앤드류 채널 영상을 시청해주시는 구독자분들께는 무료로 제공해드리기로 마음먹었습니다. 저 또한 며칠 밤새 테스트하며 어렵게 만든 지표이지만 구독자분들 성원에 힘입어 저 또한 도움을 받고 있기 때문에 어렵게 공유드리기로 마음먹었습니다. 초보자분들부터 경력이 오래된 트레이더분들까지 굉장히 큰 도움을 받을 수 있는 지표라 도움이 되실 거라고 자부합니다. 신청 방법은 하단 더보기란과 고정 댓글에 나와 있으니 많은 신청 부탁드리고 이번 하락장에서 모두 잘 살아남으셔서 좋은 성적 내시면 좋겠습니다.
You went to the crypto summit and you made an orange tie joke. Any other takeaways?
Well, I thought the fact that we were at the White House was the first takeaway because a year previous, the White House and the entire administration was somewhere between at war with the industry and unsupportive. So the fact that the President of the United States would host everybody in the entire industry at the White House was an extraordinary milestone. It hasn't happened, when's the last time a new industry was faded by the White House in the last 50 years? The second is the President signed a strategic Bitcoin reserve the day before, and that was also unexpected. The third thing that was unexpected is the evening after that summit, the Secretary of the Treasury arranged for the OCC to give guidance reversing the anti-Bitcoin, anti-crypto guidelines that had been hampering the banking industry. We didn't, we've been hoping for that, but the fact that it came so quickly was very auspicious. And then that night, David Sachs, the crypto czar, went onto a podcast and volunteered that the United States government views Bitcoin as immaculately conceived, the only truly decentralized crypto network, or the only commodity asset without an issuer. They saw it as a sound store of value. They view it as digital gold. They don't intend to sell any, and they're going to look for ways to acquire more. And I thought that was relevant because for 4 years, the previous administration had no utterances on this except through the legal filings of Gary Gensler. And Gensler, in a very subtle, backhanded way, suggested that he would grudgingly allow Bitcoin to exist and nothing else. And so he kind of said, well, it's a commodity, but he had lots of reservations, and he slowed down the institutional adoption of Bitcoin as much as one could reasonably slow it down. Whereas what you saw on Friday night at that crypto summit was the administration embracing the industry and suggesting that they were going to aggressively put pro-crypto, pro-Bitcoin regs in place. embracing this thing as not only is it a digital commodity, but it's maybe a better digital commodity than gold, right? The White House didn't declare that they are going to accelerate their gold acquisitions one way or the other. So I thought it was a major inflection point for the industry in terms of the legitimization about the industry. But Bitcoin was legitimized on that day, or in that 24-hour period, from the point that the president signed the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve to the point that David Sachs said, this is the digital commodity recognized by the United States government. That was a pretty important day in the life of the entire industry.